And as we said, the Trump administration has seemingly put North Korea on notice. But Secretary of State Rex Tillerson has gone one step further, warning other nations to steer clear of the regime as well. In a statement, Secretary Tillerson said, quote, any country that hosts North Korean guest workers, provides any economic or military benefits, or fails to fully implement UN Security Council resolutions is aiding and abetting a dangerous regime. Is there a chance this could turn into a wider conflict? Let's bring in the party panel. Katherine Timpf. She is co-host of the Fox News Specialist, a correspondent for the Greg Gutfeld Show, and an all-around beautiful person, outside and inside. Carrie Sheffield, she's founder of Bold. She's got a bold dress on. And Tom Shillue, he is a Fox News contributor, author of the book Mean Dads for a Better America. But let's start with Kat, because I know, being a libertarian, just the idea that military conflict with North Korea is just unfathomable.
It is, and I think it should be unfathomable to everybody, because when we talk about a military option, we should add on to the end of that, which would most likely lead to World War III, because that's what we're looking at. We're looking at tens of millions of people dead, and there are no good solutions here. It's not that I'm not concerned about it, because of course I am, but man, is that a sad thing to think about. There's no good way to handle it.
Well, because Carrie, I'm a business geek, so I look at what we haven't done. So China has not enforced these sanctions. There were a division of Bank of China was doing hundreds of transactions on behalf of North Korean companies. We could do secondary financial sanctions. So any entity that is conducting business with North Korea would be cracked down on by the global community. So it is avoidable.
Sure. Well, and something like 90% of North Korea's economy is flowing directly from China. So it's true, China has not been serious about this at all. I think President Trump has taken a more measured approach, thankfully, than during the campaign trail. He was very, very bellicose against China. He just signed an arms deal with Taiwan, which I think is a good signal to China to say, we're going to take this seriously. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I agree, it's unfathomable. We should not want this at all. But that being said, inaction is actually action as well. That's what Obama has shown for the last 8 years. He had no action.
Well, this is a problem. Well, this is a problem that was not solved or helped at all by the last 3 administrations. We always love making fun of Kim Jong-un.
I know.
Maybe we should stop.
Well, look, I mean, no one around here does it anymore. Although it's just with it's just because he looks funny and he has the funny haircut. But obviously he's not funny. There's nothing funny about it. But the Chinese obviously have not been that concerned about it. Okay. Because they're still, what were the numbers you said? 40% of
trade. Well, trade has gone up in 15 years, has grown tenfold with North Korea.
So that's all we can do.
They benefit handsomely from dealing in the cheap labor coming out of North Korea and the coal that they get from
and
North
the truck
Korea.
that was used for the ICBM test that just happened was a Chinese truck.
Yeah, it's Chinese technology, both in terms of the missiles and nuclear development.
But if we have to go to war, it's bad times for China, really bad times. I mean, there'd be a refugee crisis, there'd be so many issues, but I think that they just think we won't do it.
Yeah. They think that we'll just cut and run and leave Northeast Asia. Meantime, the president today left for Europe ahead of this week's big G20 summit in Germany. He's expected to meet with world leaders to discuss everything from North Korea to global trade. But perhaps the biggest event of all, the highly anticipated meeting between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. The White House has not revealed what Trump plans to discuss, but political analysts have been very curious as to whether he plans to bring up Russia's alleged interference in November's election. So how might the meetings with world leaders and, more importantly, with Putin shake out? How do you shake his hand?
That's the thing.
How do you shake Putin's hand?
It doesn't matter what they talk about.
Do you do this? First and then shake his hand just to throw him off?
That's what I say. It doesn't matter what they talk about, because all anyone is going to do is play video of that stupid handshake as they pull their arms back and forth like fools.
Like Macron did with Trump.
Exactly.
The French.
And we played that. I mean, again, what happened between him and Macron? We don't know what they said, because nobody cares, because all they want to do is show video of the dumb handshake.
Yeah, they're going to be all these body language interpreters coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, well, and I think it's kind of ridiculous when people are like, oh, he needs to, step it up about 2016. I mean, apparently Obama said that, like, cut it out. Like, how is saying cut it out on the sidelines of, like, a 5-minute meeting going to really meaningfully do anything? You have to do all the stuff behind the scenes. You do the actual work before you're ever there. But I do think it's great that President Trump, before he goes to D20, is going to Poland. And Poland is an ally that Obama basically neglected this whole time. Poland and Russia are not besties. They have a lot of animosity. So I think it's great that Trump is going there and showing that we have a robust relationship with Poland and we're not going to neglect them anymore.
Yeah, Putin and Russia don't get the first dance. That always sends a message.
They don't, but the good thing that Trump should remember is that no matter how he handles it, everyone's going to say it was wrong. Either he's going to be too friendly or he wasn't friendly enough. And see, even even Russia doesn't like us because Trump is so bad. Or, oh, they like each other too much. If I were Trump, I'd be so tempted to just troll and, like, give him a big hug. And, like, I mean, terrible idea. I wouldn't do that. But it just doesn't matter what he does. It's not, the coverage of it won't be positive.
But I think you're right. I said earlier, punch him in the nose, bring up the whole Russia hacking thing, and just lay it all out on the table and just see how he reacts, because you know that Putin has studied up on Trump for sure in terms of how to interact with him, what body language works, what doesn't work. I mean, just lay it all out there. Just hit him with everything you got.
I agree. I think
it's like a singles bar.
I think that that's the absolute best thing that he could do. But at the same time, people would be like, yeah, but when he walked away, I didn't see him hold Melania's hand. And then that would be all the headlines. So it doesn't really matter.
It's an right,
but I agree with you. I would love to see him do that.
Lay it out there. So New Jersey beaches are back open for the summer after a 3-day government shutdown that saw Christie become public enemy #1 for sunning himself while the rest of the state was shut out. Christie remaining defiant in the face of widespread criticism and thousands of memes that he had every right to use the beach house because it was part of an official governor's residence. Right or wrong, the optics aren't great for the governor, whose approval rating is hovering around 15%. Kat Timpf, somebody on Mornings with Maria earlier this week said that is the governor trolling his own people in the state of New Jersey.
I said that's what giving up looks like. At that point, why was he even wearing a shirt? You've already given up so much. You're gonna have a shirt on. No, just put it all out there, because at this point, you just quit. Okay? It doesn't matter. Yeah, he had every right to use the beach, but when everyone else, or not everyone else, but a lot of people can't use their beaches because no matter whose fault it is, you can't figure it out, and you're just sitting there relaxing, and then you say, oh, well, I'm the governor and you're not. Oh, you just don't want to be the governor. If you don't like it,
Shillue, if you don't like it, you can run for governor and get to use this beach that was closed to the rest.
I like that answer. It's actually the true answer. I mean, it's a mansion. He lives on a beach. What's he supposed to do, hide in the kitchen? That's even dumber.
Yeah,
he should have waited until the budget crisis was solved and then the beach is open. Look, I've said this for years now about Christie. I would not trust that man with my lunch money in terms of being a governor. I used to rate bonds. He's been downgraded 11 times by the bond ratings analysts. And so he's been a disaster as far as being a governor. So this is like a proxy of who he actually is. That being said, he is an amazing fundraiser. He raised $100 million for the Republican Governors Association. Just let him go and be like this bravado, charismatic person. That's who he is. He's not someone who actually cares.
But he's even lost the bravado. He's just like, ugh.
Yeah, I know.
The big raspberry to New Jersey.
Well, I mean, look.
So you would have just been laid out there on the beach.
Yeah.
Wearing SPF
he lives on
like
the beach.
800.
He has a house on the beach.
That's funded by taxpayer money.
So what? He's there. I mean, what is he supposed to?
Are you defending him?
I am absolutely defending him, and I tell he should go back to the old bravado. Tell everyone to sit down and shut. I liked when he was telling people sit down and shut up, and it's so true. And, who's trolling is the people who get in the plane and fly by him. Oh, look, he's on the beach. It's like, shut up. Let him sit on the beach. He was right. He was saying the real scandal would have, if I would have been, if there was a young hottie next to me. He was there with his family. He's fine.
Whatever. You sound like you're like, he would have defended King George during the Revolution.
He wasn't bad. He's got the best song in Hamilton.
There you go. No, I mean, there's no way it looks good, though, Tom.
Speaking of elitist You've seen Hamilton? I haven't
seen Hamilton.
See, again, elitist.
He was eating foie gras.
The beach is closed to you, but there's Tom Shillue with his SPF 800 sitting on the beach.
Singing Hamilton.
That's why he's so pale.
So the panel returns a little later. But first, the weight of expectation of a health care plan that works has caused friction between Senate Republicans, but the Democrats have their share of problems too. I'll ask Chris Direwalt which party has a deeper hole to dig out of next. Violence, meantime, rampantly spread through Chicago over the long holiday weekend, leaving 101 people shot, 14 of whom died. And now, in an effort to help cap crime and keep some of the city's youth safe, Mayor Rahm Emanuel is pushing a new rule that will prevent students from graduating from high school unless they have a plan for the future. The requirement is set to begin in 2020, and students will need to prove that they have secured a job, received a letter of acceptance to a college, a trade apprenticeship, a gap year program, or the military. Will this actually help Chicago's youth, or will dropout rates be on the rise? The party panel's back. Katherine Timpf, Carrie Sheffield, and Tom Shillue. I end with you. I begin with you, Tom Shillue.
Yeah.
This seems like people just won't even bother graduating from high school, that the graduation rates will plummet.
Well, it's not only, according to these rules, I wouldn't have been able to graduate high school. I had no plan. I had no job. I graduated high school. I just went off to summer and I waited. And then in the fall, I looked around and I finally found a job because I'm a responsible American. But the thing is, I didn't have a plan. I wanted to waste some time, get my act together before I went to college. So Shillue wouldn't have been able to graduate.
Well, and Shillue, you had the luxury of having a mean dad, and 75% of African-American kids are born without a father in the home. So a lot of these kids are drifting. They feel like they don't have purpose in their life. They're getting into drugs. They're getting into gangs. Like, I think this could actually have a lot of potential to force kids to think about their lives. And in Israel, for example, they have mandatory military service. It creates this sense of belonging. It creates a sense of purpose, and it creates a sense of, you know what, I have something bigger than just my little worldview.
Because it takes government rule and regulation, and the government knows better, and they're so benevolent, so it's always rules that just make everything perfect.
There's absolutely no way for these kids to find purpose without the government literally mandating that they find purpose. The best soul searching of all time is done under a government mandate. Now, this is ridiculous. Plus, like, what's a job? What if you want to think about it and, like, babysit your cousin for a little bit? Does that count? You have to have your aunt come in there and be like, yes, she will be babysitting my her cousin. It's ridiculous. If you graduated, that means you completed high school. What you do after, and also a lot of these schools don't have the resources to help these kids find anything. Right. So this won't help the people who need the resources the most because they're not there.
I want to shift.
But it's not set up for the way mandating it to graduation. I think is a bad way to do it. But at the same time, we have to do something. We already mandate don't kill people, and yet they're doing it. Like, we have to we have to do something.
I really firmly stand behind the don't kill people law.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think murder is bad, but again, the government chronically oversteps.
So what about Israel, where it works though? Where it's a mandatory military service and there is strong civic capital.
God bless America.
Yeah, in terms of somebody supporting the national defense.
Chicago is falling to pieces.
I want to shift gears. If the dating world wasn't stressful and confusing enough, there is now a new question plaguing today's singles. Who pays for the first date? Caught between chivalry and equality, men and women reportedly no longer know who should pick up the check when it arrives. In a survey done by Chapman University, 39% of women said they hoped a man would pay for the entirety of the bill, yet some women claim they get stuck paying for the whole thing. Regardless, with the cost of dating on the rise and mobile payment apps like Venmo being used to split bills, should couples just dine and dash to avoid confusion? Katherine Timpf.
I don't really date in the traditional sense.
What is the untraditional
sense? First date, I don't know. I think that it varies on the situation. For example, if one of you is very rich, then you pay. Stuff like that. But generally, you at least pretend you're going to pay for it. I do that all the time where I pretend I'm going to pay for it, but I have no intention of doing so. Yeah, absolutely.
The reach is like my test. If they actually don't stop the reach, they're toast. Like, if they actually make me pay, nope. And I'm a I'm a proud conservative. I'm not one of these.
You know, somebody made the argument to me, though, that if you were dating somebody and had been on several dates with them and they were overspending at dinner, like ordering too much food, ordering expensive bottles of wine, it was a sign that they were deep in credit card debt.
And they just don't care.
And then you don't want to date them.
You leave it up to the individual. It's true. The guys reach for the check. And then if they want, the thing is that you got to give the women an out. If you're on a first date and she's not impressed with the guy, then she's going to go in for the, for the pay. And the more she fights, the less she likes you. If she puts down that money, that was always a signal when I was a single man. You see that money and you'd be looking like, the president would be looking up at you like, no, you ain't going home tonight, brother.
Actually, for me, it's the opposite because it's like, I ain't paying for that.
It doesn't bother me. I dated a man who was in clown college at the time, so, I would pay for a little more things because he was in clown college. We later broke, didn't really work out for unrelated reasons.
I've dated a lot of clowns.
Hopefully a clown. I do wish him the best.
I've dated a lot of clowns. But they weren't in
without
college.
a degree.
Yeah,
what a waste.
I believe in chivalry, like holding the door for me, and I'll punch you in the face if you don't. Thanks, Kat. And Carrie and Tom. Not you, Tom. A bipartisan Senate group just returning from Afghanistan calling for an increase in U.S. troops there to help end America's longest war. Are more troops the solution? I'll ask Buck Sexton.